Okay. Luisinho, if you can confirm if you can see my screen here.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Yes. Yes.
Lovely. Hey, so in a bit we're gonna do the formal introduction, but it's really good to have back on our stage Rafael, right? He has been a very active and one of our founding members actually in VAB since 2020. So I'm gonna let Mark to make like the proper introduction, but thank you. And also we're exploring with him how we can do something with Nexus, the company that is really a specialist in governance. So we are looking how we can do this, and we will have like some great news after the summer for all of our members in terms of opportunities for advisory and board roles. So I think that Luis, you have been like just amazing. I think that we are right now on our ninth session. We have 8 already, and it's really good to see the progress. I'm not going to mention all, but many of you have been like really following all the sessions. For those of you that have no idea of what I'm talking about, also, if you're a VAB member, you have access to the webinar and the library where you can access, and we can connect you with any of the speakers. Still, I believe we have 2 more to come besides the one from today. So we're going to have the CEO and chairman from Mammoth, the sports brand, Greg, with us in 2 weeks from now. And then we're going to close before going to holidays, right? During July and August. Many of you will be in the summer. VAB will be there still for you. But we're going to have also Shimi, who, by the way, we are sending lots of our love because she is right now like passing like through the hospital and some like health issues. But I believe that she will be promptly okay and back with us. Okay, so this is really good to see all the plans, and also we're about to launch the new program for the VAB Academy. Good news is that we're going to have this for the Western, but also for the Eastern members. So this is really good for our friends in any of the countries in Asia and Middle East. They will have a new time as well. I'm not going to mention here a lot. I think that all of you know what I'm going to pass this invitation, and also the board ecosystem. I think that you know that we have much and more institutions, like for example, Copenhagen Institute for Future Studies. So thanks to Peter Thomen and Karsten for making this connection. But why am I going to pass this? Because I really would love to extend the invitation and saying that this Friday is our best and the biggest event of VAB in the year. So we're going to have 2 sessions. We're going to start with 30 minutes, and then we're going to go to the panel, okay? So basically, you have the Western side, right? We're going to start 30 minutes of the toast. We're going to basically cover what VAB has done during 1,080 days. So that means like 3 years. Also, what we're going to prepare for all of you, including some news about platforms, apps, and the global conference. And also, we're going to do a lot of sharing stories by members. So it will be very interactive, and the audio will be there. So the first part in the morning, we will post it on the team now, so you can subscribe if you are not on, and if not, we can send you the recording. And the second part will be, like the first part is much more for members in Singapore and in Middle East APAC, right? It will be moderated by Michael Judin, together with Helle, with Suyan in Singapore, and with Maali in the Middle East. So it's a fantastic group. And the second celebration will be for our members in the Central European time zones, and also Western and Latin America. Will be, unfortunately, Shimi cannot attend, so it will be with Brady, together with Andrew Cacabatze, Sandra Guerra from Brazil, and also Helle, who will be attending both sessions for VAB. So thank you. And Mark, I'm going to pass it over to you, unless you have any other remarks. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and passing this over to you and Rafa.
No, that's fantastic. Thanks, David. Thanks, Luis. Thanks, guys, for putting it all together. Like, really wonderful cohort on the session today. Really pleased to welcome Rafael. Rafael, we had a fantastic call previously. I think you were like a 9.9 rated speaker last time. So look, let's see if we can go for the perfect score this time. But it was so impressive. We had lots of really positive feedback. Look, in true style, we'll keep it. Rafael loves taking questions, so we'll keep manning the chat as usual. But look, I'm privileged to know Rafael for many years through YPO, through CEO coaching. We've helped Rafael. We've collaborated on building a couple of boards as well. So I've seen his hands-on, like, deep knowledge and how he makes these boards performant. So it's such a pleasure to have Rafael share with us again today. Rafael, look, really excited again. Muchísimas gracias por el tiempo, and looking forward to today's session. Big welcome.
Thank you very much for being here, and welcome to everyone. And that for me is a pleasure, like always, being here and then trying to share my experience on that. Just to make it a very short introduction, my experience has been a long experience on executive roles in multinational, being running across the globe in the different roles, local, regional, global roles, and then transition to board in the last 4 or 5 years. So that is a very typical career path of many people that they have been many years on executive role with a very high levels, very high responsibilities, exposed to governance from the corporations, and then move into a more kind of advisory roles or board members. And that's something that in my case has been very successful, and any kind of support, any kind of guidances or any learning that they had there, willing to share, and very delighted of doing that.
Fantastic. Thanks, Rafael. Excellent. Do you need to share any slides, Rafael, or we just go straight in?
Let's go straight.
Fantastic. Super. Thanks, Rafa.
So, in my view, I think that's, and then we can go for some questions later. But in my view, let me start from the very beginning, because I think that's probably sharing that probably will be a little bit easier for you. So if you allow me to share that,
yeah, absolutely. Do you need hosting? You've got it. Perfect.
No, I have it. Amazing. Now. So I hope that now you can all see my screen. Yep. That's right.
All clear. Yep.
Oh no, that's not that. So you see how near? Do you see now the big screen?
No, we have the
presenter's mode.
The presenter model. Yeah.
Okay, so let's do it a different way.
Perfect.
Better like that?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll try to make it a little bit bigger so you can see. But so the first thing is let me share that with you. That's that in general, then well, we love to say that everything started from the top. So we said normally we love to say that governance, and specifically everything on strategic and corporate governance, is the basis for everything that starts from the very, very top of the company. And you know that, and especially when you have enough and different and very different experiences, is that yeah, you have been trained, and most of people in general, and most of the business schools are training people for being executive, but very few and very seldom people are trained to be owners, to manage the ownership of the company, and to be the real owners of the company. Okay, so that's what we try to stress a little bit. That's that governance is when we're thinking about corporate governance, that's is a responsibility, is a clear responsibility of the ownership. Okay, so in general, what is good corporate governance, some organization and structure in government bodies, some key factor for us of how that work. That's a little bit of what I try to share today with you. So a few things that I try to share with you is what is a good corporate governance. There are many talk about that. Many people talk about governance, but you need to differentiate in between corporate governance, that is, as I said before, the relation with the responsibility of the ownership, that is on the top, and then you have the executive governance. So the executive governance is what we do it when we are executive. Everything in the executive C-suite are doing executive governance. And then all these type of things are relevant for that. One of the typical discussions that I like it to share, why corporate governance is relevant and why corporate governance is important, and the main stakeholders that they are involved in the corporate governance. Then our approach is this is a very typical approach of looking on the ownership of the company, the family of the company, when there are families are involved in the ownership, and then the management. Then these three stakeholders, these three main stakeholders are combined in the governance, in the relationship, in the directions of the company. And you can have all the combination that you see there, all the different intersections and all this different overlapping. Then you can have people that they are pure management, that they are not related to the family, neither to the ownership, people that they are in the family, in the ownership and in the management. That is the typical entrepreneurs belong to the ownership, that they are the CEO of the company and that belong to the family. But you can have any other combinations, and each of the different elements are very relevant for the understanding and to organize. And as we said, then there could be governance in the companies, but that there could be also governance in the families, and then family business and family is very critical in general.
And Rafa, what do you
sure.
kind of, in your experience, kind of
Yeah.
having worked with both entrepreneurial boards and family business boards, what is that voyage to get performant and focused, and particularly in the entrepreneurial boards where there mightn't be a sense of corporate governance, how to get there? Maybe could you share a little bit on those two different types of organizations and getting to that stage of performance? And I know you sit on a couple of boards and chair a couple of boards where that's exactly what you've been driving. I'm just curious on the entrepreneurial versus the family business, because that dynamic can be so different.
Yeah, one thing that that's important to say is because there are many people that they differentiated in between the two. At the end of the day, every single entrepreneur, at the end of the day, they have families as well. So every single company will become a family business in some point of time. Either you like it or not, then even the entrepreneurs, even the very young ones, in some point of time, they will have partners, they will have sons or daughters, they will have other family members. So successions, and then being involved around with other members where they have some link and connections and family connections, this is relevant. So that is very important to notice. And family have a lot of influence in general. As to your question, Mark, I think that's they have a different dynamic. My experience is that they have different dynamics. The entrepreneurs that they are single entrepreneurs, that they are more a single man show, that they are single persons, that's normally more determined, more clear. They have faster decision process. When you have more than one partners, similar size, similar shareholder percentage, then you have normally much longer term visions, more complex in some cases decision process, but probably a longer term views. And when you start having families, that depends very much of the stage of the families. So as I said, every single company start normally with one or single or some partners. So all of them start on the first generation, and some of the family business, they pretend to go to the second to the third generation. So not all of them. There are some of entrepreneurs that they prefer, and they are looking for exits, and then is their main targets, and then the board and then the governance need to help them to achieve what they want to achieve. That is probably having the exit. In some other cases is to keep it the business for the second or third generation, and then the board, especially the professional boards, are very critical for that succession process, because otherwise doing that internally is very, very difficult. Okay.
And Rafa, in your experience then on the kind of classic non-executive board versus an advisory board, just on, particularly in an entrepreneur's case, just deciding which model should they go for, maybe just to share some experience on that. And then I'd love to get your thoughts on the building that trust in the boardroom. I mean, in YPO, obviously we have forum, in VAB we have tribe, so people are used to developing that trust dynamic. In the boardroom, in your experience, how have you seen tools to kind of build up that that trust in the boardroom?
Okay, so let's start from the second one. So I think definitely trust is very critical, is very relevant, and we need to be sure that we understand that, because then without trust and without independency and without being independent in the board, is very difficult, almost impossible to contribute it and to give the right, to add the right value to the ownership of the company. So, and we need to understand that it's not easy to get, because at the end of the day, trust is something that in general people get after working together, or experience or train together and being exposed to them. And we need to understand that some of these boards, they only meet 4, 5, 6 times per year, in some cases a few hours. So the way of developing the trust is very relevant. So my suggestion in these cases is try to accelerate this the building trust using some exercises as we use it in YPO for the forums, but then having some offsite frequently, so people going together for some social activities, introducing some profile analysis. That's something that we normally do it very oftenly as well, is introducing a kind of analysis of the profiles of the different members, and then sharing together with the whole group, showing and realizing the differentiation, so that every single member is different. Recognizing the differences is a very good way of recognizing that contribution of each of them could be different. So recognizing vulnerabilities is very relevant as well. So all this process of vulnerability, trust, differentiation, and so on need to be accelerated. If I need to take it, one key element for that is definitely the selection of the members. So the selection of the diversity of the members. So be sure that you get the right members in the seat. And the second one, probably the most critical, is the leadership. So leadership is critical for that. So depending on who is leading that group, then the people will be much more open and more free, and will have more freedom and more independency of saying whatever they expected. Now, on your other questions related to advisory board and board members, I like it to use one example that is probably is not the best example, but is very graphical, very easy to understand. In general, my example said that the difference of the relationship between an advisory board and a board member is the same difference in between the chicken and the pig in the bacon and eggs. Okay. So that's so normally
I just had a full English breakfast this morning, Rafael. I had both.
So you have both. So
both.
you know that the chicken that continue to be there, and they give you the eggs, and then at the end of the day, okay, you take the eggs, you decided what you want to do with the eggs, you eat it or not. But the pig give you their life, and they give you the bacon for you, and then so that's a little bit of kind of the stream, but the reality is that some of the owners, some of the ownership, they are a little bit afraid of having a board, board of director, and some board members are afraid to participate in a board due to liabilities and so on. So at the end of the day, some companies and some organizations, they realize and they organize this type of advisory board. That is good. In some cases, advisory board, in my view, are, as the name said, is clearly advisory. In most of the cases, it's more an advisory board to the CEO. So in most cases, are acting as an advisors for the top management. So it's a sounding board. It's challenging the CEO. It's a good way of bringing their ideas and then they get the feedback of the ideas. But in general, advisory board are not taking decisions. Now, a board of directors is a governance body where the ownership delegated the directions, the guidance, the management, the governance from the corporate side, and especially they are fully dedicated, or in most of the cases dedicated to the long term view, strategically and long-term views. Some owners, they tell us, okay, yeah, but I'm the owner, so I don't want to share that type of responsibilities with others because I don't know what these guys will do it. Yeah, at the end of the day, the owners are always represented in the assembly of the shareholder assembly. The shareholder assembly are the one that who decided who is in the board and who is not in the board. So if you are not happy with the board, then you just fire the board, and then you fire the board members. The assembly have that right, and then you decided. But in general, my experience of the good governance said that okay, there are certain decisions, so you need to build a kind of matrix decision that you put it some certain decisions that are always must be in the assembly side. So that's at the very, very high levels of selling the company, buying big companies or other acquisitions on the assembly side, and then especially appointing the CEO or appointed the board members. So all this is in the assembly. Then there are certain decisions that should be on the board of director that should be very crystal clear which decisions are there, what is the independency of that, and how this decision need to be taken by majority, need to be taken by consensus. The chairman of the board have double voting or whoever the decision process, and then what are the decisions that they are delegating to the CEO and the C-suite. So as soon as you have a good matrix there, and all this is crystal clear for everyone, normally things are working well. Okay. So let me comment a little bit of our model. That is probably one of the things that I like it more to simplify it, and that is easy for everyone to remember, is that when we look at about corporate governance, and especially on the governance bodies, we normally said that we have 6 value levers that they are the most critical for the corporate governance. So 6 value levers. So they just stay with me, just very simple. Is 6 value levers is very easy to remember. Then the 6 ones, normally we build it the board starting from the number 1 to the number 6. So the number 1 is the objective. So what is the objective for the corporate governance? So what is the objective of the board? Then we have a group of value levers that they are related to the method, that they are related to the organization, that they are related to the structure. And then these are the number 2, number 3, number 4. So you started from the objective, then with the objectives that you define, then you go to the functions. What type of function do you need to have in the board? What type of a structure do you need in the board? What type of processes, method do you need in the board? So objective, structure, method, and functions. And then you finish building the board with the people, that is the persons, the members in the board, and then the leadership. So these are, in my opinion, in our methodology, in our framework, the 6 value levers for a board, or for a corporate governance, or for an advisory board. So while you build the board starting from the objective, going to the functions of the board, going to the methodology, and going to the processes that you need, and then finalizing with the members and with the leadership. Normally, when the board is running, then the board is kind of organized the other way around. So it's guided or directed or managed by the leader. The leader lead the members of the board. Then the members of the board apply the different methodologies. That with these different methodologies and a specific structure, you are able to achieve the functions. And then when you achieve that functions of the board, then you obtain the objective that you are looking for. Okay?
Rafa, can I just ask on the, so once you've got the governance, the kind of rules of engagement all in place, I mean, almost looking at you with all your chairman experience, I'm sure there's been cases where you're working with kind of first-time CEOs and first-time board members. What can a chairman do to kind of help people get a little bit more kind of board ready? I mean, they have tremendous functional experience or business experience. Is there a level in terms of how you need to help them be comfortable operating in the board environment if it's their first roles? What's your kind of experience on that, Rafa?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question.
Thank you, Rafa. Thank you.
That is one of the most difficult part. I think there are many people that they, and that happened to all of us. So I think almost no one, except for probably 1 or 2% or 5% of the board members, 95 or 99% of them, they have been executives before. So almost all of us, we have been executive, and then we have we have transitioned to board roles. As I said, 99% of the business school trained for being executive, to be very determined, to take a lot of decisions, taking a lot of risk, taking a lot of actions, and executing actions. And when we are moving to a board role, doesn't matter if that is an advisory board or is a board member, then you need to switch completely your mind, and that's the most important advice of guidance for the new board members is you are not longer here for executing, you are not longer here for determined decisions, executing decisions, and you are here for supporting an advisory role. And we have a lot of examples of people that they have been fantastic executive that they are not a good board members, and that's very common. And that could be the worst thing for some of the CEOs that they are themselves looking for similar profiles than themselves to be in their boards. So they are looking for members of the board that they are similar profiles that the CEO itself, with long experience, very sector-oriented, very hands-on experiences. And what we founded in this board is a kind of competition, let's put it that way. So is that they are member of the board that they are recently appointed that is trying in certain sense to compete with the CEO, and that is a typical mistake or typical error of the very earliest career of the board members, is trying to in certain sense compete with the CEO, with the other executive. If you are former CEO, you are a former functional roles, then try to show and to demonstrate it that you have even more knowledge and more capabilities and more experience on certain areas that the C-suite. That's a typical error. My opinion on that and my experience is, okay, you need to give one step backwards, thinking twice, reading, listening a lot, and participating with advices, experiences, directions that normally much more in the medium long term perspective, much more than in the very short term. So
hey, Rafa and Mark,
yeah.
just we have James Rosenstein who wants to make questions to you. So hey,
Sure.
James, Rafa, if that's okay, can I call him?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay, thank you. James, over to you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, this is very interesting. I just have a couple of questions because I see, the main areas of procedures, rules, and so on. And in boards, I've seen fundamentally that there could be an issue of the fundamental purpose, because you have the existence of purpose and profit. And the main concern in most boards is achieving the profit. And if you take the example of sustainability, for example, there is an issue where you have to balance the two. And that has caused a lot of board issues. So one question is, how do you proceed best to create the system of basic principles and align them with the fundamental purpose of profit? That's one question. And another one is, you can find in boards examples of people who do have private interests. If you're on a board of a family, for example, there may be private family interests that may or may not coincide with the interests of the company. And there are other members who may have also their own personal private interests. So how do you bring these together so that it all coincides with the basic reasons and purpose of the activity of the board and the purpose of the company in achieving its long-lasting profit and success?
Wow, thank you. Two very light questions, James. That's fantastic. Great. Rafael, I'm glad you're answering those questions. Thanks, James. That was great.
Yeah,
Okay,
can you see my slides, James?
yes.
So I will try to give you some answer on that. And of course, then there's a lot of the
Rafael, I saw you change the first one from profit to purpose just as James was talking.
No, that's promise you. I send it to David in advance. So that's I think you are fully right. Is that in general, some of the boards in general, that's my experience, is have become a kind of strong supervision or strong push for the executive roles. So for the executive committees. So and then the boards became a kind of control and supervision board of the executive. And in general, that is only part of the functions of the corporate governance. But we want to say that would like to say that the good corporate governance must ensure all these 7 areas. And as I said, that the first one is achieving the purpose. But of course, then achieving the purposes need to be defined by the ownership. And the representatives of the ownership are the assembly. And then the assembly can delegate that to the board. And then the board need to define first the purpose, and then put it that on the directions of the company for achieving that purpose. The rest is very much linked to that, because when you have a purpose, then the interests of all the stakeholders are very critical. You need to comply with a view as well. So vision, view, purpose, mission is very similar wording, but all this that became to the long-term strategy, where you have view, where you have interest, where you have purpose, you have vision, where you have mission. No doubts that you didn't mention, but the other critical element is culture, is that you cannot do anything on that if you don't have the proper culture in the company. And that's also an obligation, is a responsibility of the board of establishing the culture of the company. And then the more practical parts of the corporate governance related to how to allocate the funding, how to allocate the asset of the company, the people, the money. So correct allocations, analysis and identification and mitigation of risk, and definitely everything that is related to opportunities on M&A, merging, acquisitions, and so on. So in my view, in our framework perspective, if you have a board that is not a corporate governance, boards or bodies on the corporate governance that is not following these 7 main topics, drivers, then you are not fulfilling 100% of the purposes of the corporate governance. Now, the next one, the next topics that you mentioned is, okay, you can have individuals in boards that they have individuals, and that is very typical, is that at the end of the day, then you always have people participating in the boards that they are representing not the interests of the company. So one of the things that I like to say, and I repeated that to everyone that have been offered to be a board member, my view, and that's a very particular view, you can have different differences on that. When you are appointed as a board member, doesn't matter what type of board member you are representing the interest of the company, and you are representing the interest of all stakeholders in the company. And if someone is saying that it's not like that, then I love to say, yes, I will represent the interest of the company, so the best interest of all stakeholders, including the minority chair, the majority chair, family chair, anyone. And I will act as a real representative of the interests of every single one stakeholder in the company. If I feel if I have been appointed by one of the shareholders and I got any conflict on that, then I will discuss the conflict, but and I'm ready to discuss if there are any conflict, but if I cannot represent the best interests of the whole organization, the whole company, the whole stakeholders, I do prefer not to stay in the board. Okay, but of course that's depend very much of one or the others. One of the very critical things when we start talking about members of the board is there are a lot of debates of what is the characteristic, and then Mark, you know a lot of that as a specialist of appointing people on the board, and there are a lot of discussions around that. What is the criteria for the best board member? In my view, and that's you have some individuals characteristics and some collective or group characteristic. The individual ones are several, and everyone recognize that experience, knowledge, skills, soft skills, and so on are relevant. For me, the number one priority is integrity. So if you don't have integrity, the rest, okay, is kind of worthless. And integrity, in my view, is something that is difficult to obtain or train or convert it or transition to that. Is something that belongs to the DNA of the person, and doesn't matter very much of if the person is well paid or bad pay, or is more, or is a non-pay board, or is the person is rich, or the person is that belongs to the integrity. That integrity will give the opportunity, the freedom, the independency of the person of saying whatever the person needs to say. So that's from the individual perspective. And then when you look at from the collective perspective, from the group perspective, then of course there's diversity, but diversity is not enough. It's not only needed that you have people that they are from different origins, different race, different backgrounds, but we look a lot for inclusion. So diversity is one thing, is okay, you have different people, but you need to accept it then as they are. So you need to accept it, different opinions, let them to act as they are. The women, they need to act as women, the young people as young people, the senior people as experienced and seniors. So let them express themselves as they are, and accepting all the opinions, and then that is very critical and very important role for the leadership, for the champion, for the chairman of the board. That is very critical.
I think one thing, just to comment on that, Rafael, when we were working together on building the boards, it was, I think, your expertise on actually getting a very tight specification together in terms of the different profiles. It's actually quite rare. So coming from the executive search background, executive roles tend to have deeper job specs and profiles. It's rarer in the board or advisory space. It's just get me this. This is the person I want. This is the expertise I want around me. Your diligence on putting those together was exceptional. And I think getting that alignment with the CEOs of the businesses and possibly the other board members, I think does really ensure that there's a thoughtful and purposeful approach in terms of benchmarking people, comparing profiles, and ultimately choosing the best fit person. So just to kind of compliment you, having seen you in action on that, I think that's a very diligent approach to achieving it.
Yeah, we said the one thing on this 6 elements that I mentioned before, of these 6 value levers, that we said that all these elements in the corporate governance work as a hi-fi or the equipment or any of these systems where the performance of the system will be as good as the words of the element. So there is no way of getting a good outcome, a good performance of a board, even if you have the best element, the best people in the sitting in the board, if you don't have the right methodology, if you don't have the right objective, if you don't have the right functions, or if you don't have the right leadership there. So that's why it's so critical. And some people came to us and said, but you know, we just bring here the top 4 people in the industry. They have the best knowledge, the best capabilities, the best track record, the best of the best, but we don't perform as a group. And that is because you can have the best people, but if you don't have the best leadership, if you don't have the best methodology, if you don't have not defined the right processes, you don't have the right objective, then you can have the best people, but you will never get the right performance.
And I think even on that, Rafael, we were able to recruit a couple of board members who didn't really have a lot of prior board experience, which was quite incredible. And it really was, you were looking for kind of culture fit, expertise, values. Previous board experience was not a massive kind of factor, was it?
Yeah, we used to say that, and forget me, people that they have long experience here in this call. It's better having no experience than having a bad experience. So in some cases, specifically in the board, because as I said, there is no training, sophisticated and perfect training for board members better than the board itself. So you learn in the board. Yep. So unfortunately, if you learn in the wrong board, then with the wrong leadership, with the wrong board members, then that is the kind of examples that you have get it. So it's like the family. Yep. So you know how relevant is for a child, for a teenager, the learning in their families. So the first 10, 15 years are critical for their lives. So the first, the second board role, the board environment where you are, then this will condition a lot of your behavior and your roles as a board member. So in some cases, it's better to have someone that with no board experience, that you can adapt it to a certain methodology, that having someone that have been trained in a board that with certain rules that probably are not the best. Of course,
it really isn't a barrier, is it? It's not a barrier at all. Pavel, do you want to come in with your question? Pavel's got a great question there. Ahoy, Pavel.
Hi, it's me. My question basically comes from the company I see in the surrounding. I see the companies, they strongly prefer to have in board only persons who grew up in the company, just insiders. On the other hand, there are companies who exclusively call up to the board persons who are from the outside, just for better positioning themselves in the global world. Is there any visible trend or general advice for that?
Yeah, that's
Thanks,
a good
Pavel.
question. Thank you, Pavel. I think that one of the kind of the logic that I was trying to use it is, and we normally use it in this board building boards, is we started everything from the objective. So you need to think about your strategic objective of the company. So if the strategic objective of the company is to continue in the same, and that will depend, depending on the strategic objective, then you need to define a lot of things. And part is who are the board members, what type of corporate governance bodies do you need? What type of methodology? What type of function do you need? But so it's completely different. So it's the objective of the company. Just imagine that you have a company that is sitting in a specific country, in your country there, and then you want to internationalize that company. And the objective, the clear objective, is the medium long term, not talking about short term, but in the medium long term, is to have exposure to different sectors, to different countries, to different regions, even different continents. So it's look like very logic, but at the end of the day, people are not taking so simple decisions like that. So if that is what you need in the long term, what you need is people in the board that can help you to achieve this type of strategic objectives. So if everyone that you get in the board have the same experience that you in the same country and in the same industry and in the same experience, then okay, you can have a very cohesive board. Everyone will tell you almost whatever you know already, but they will not challenge you or will not help you of achieving your strategic objective. But that is the basic direction. So the answer is that depends of the objective, but the important is that you need to align the board members and the methodology and so on with the objective. And that is also very critical when people said, you know, what is the one thing that is very difficult is to appoint one member in the board. That is, everyone recognizes this is a very difficult thing. But there is something that is even much more difficult, is to fire someone from a board. So if someone asks you how many people have you fired as a chairman from the board, and who have fired someone from as a chairman from the board too early, is no one. No one have. So it's very simple. You just hire people that you know it, or you have some relationship with, or whatever. And why I said that, because when I said objective, the objectives are changing during the time. So you need to be sure that you have the right people for the right objective for the period of time, the 2, 3, 4 years of this strategic objective. When the strategic objectives change, or when you have achieved it already, then you thank these people that help you to achieve that objective, and then you work with new objective, with new board members, new teams for new objective, and nothing wrong. It's just you need to explain that very early, at the very beginning of the engagement. So the best thing when you do it an engagement yourself as a board member, or as a chairman of the board, or as a CEO of an owner, is that be sure that you agree that it's a temporary role.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. Thanks, Pavel. Rafa, Jay was just asking, can we share the slides later on? The next slides?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Louise will do that through you later on. That's great.
Yeah.
And I was just going to ask Rafael on, particularly on the entrepreneurial board. So owner, founder, entrepreneur, has a board or is looking to kind of upgrade or really have a functioning performant board in place. How do you help them go from, a very tactical decision-making in the boardroom, which is, I presume, very, very common, to actually becoming and elevating those conversations to more strategic discussions?
Yeah, that's a very typical challenge for most of the roles, most of the boards. In general, boards are built with extraordinary good objective and extraordinary good intentions, and then at the end of the day, finishing the fulfilling other activities. So one of our methodologies, and that is a very simple one, is a very practical one, is deciding at the very beginning of the year, at the end of the previous year, is that what are the main objectives, as we said before, for the board, and what are the main strategic objective, and what is the according to this strategic objective, what is the main functions of the board for the following year to come. Okay, so then normally we decided is that the board, of course, all boards and most of the board, they have some control and supervision activities. Some you need to take decisions, you need to do it some strategic analysis. So you put it the 6-7 different functions, and then you decided either the ownership or the ownership together with the board, you decided what percentage of your time do you plan to dedicate it to each of these areas. And that is very typical that when you ask these questions, most of the people said, okay, supervision and control, okay, we are not organized for that. So supervision and control for us is only 20% of the time. What happened later when you see the agendas of and the reality of the boards during the full year is they dedicated 80% of the time to supervision and control. And why? Because they don't plan it that well in advance. So one of our guidance, talking about the system members with the system chairman, a very simple one is, okay, plan it well in advance, the complete year, your dedications. If you said that your supervision and control will be only 25% of your time, then you just make it the agenda for the 10 different board meetings for the year, and then only 25% of your time should be dedicated to supervision and control. If you said that 50% of your time should be dedicated to strategy, then you should have it, you need to be sure that 50% of the hours that you will dedicate it during the year will be fully dedicated to strategy. So, and then make it that certain controls from time to time to see if you are really in this direction or not. And that is normally a role of the chairman. So don't leave it that in the hands of the others, of the CEO or others. So this is the chairman role. And if you need some support, then ask for some of your members to help you, of the secretary of the board, of someone to support, to help you on these agendas, planning, and be sure that you fully dedicated the time to the purposes and to the function of the board. So these are very basic, very simple ones. That of course, is that work, then you are in the right directions. Of course, then there could be some other misfunctions on the relationship of people, of the performance, of the leadership capabilities, and so on others. Okay.
Rafa, I want to bring in Carrie. Carrie, are you okay to come in and ask? You got a great question there. And we'll finish with this, but a great question, Carrie.
Well, I just wanted to reiterate that point in a different way. What the board says it wants to spend time, and then what it actually does is so important. I think it goes back to what you said earlier. People don't necessarily know how to be on a board. So even if you allocate the meeting time properly, okay, it's going to be forward looking and 60% on strategy, everyone might get weighed down in all of the oversight. So I also like comparing what was in the written agenda and how they actually spent their time, and then asking, like, is it bad habits? Is it people not understanding the board function? Have you ever done that where you've also just looked at, we planned this much, but then, everybody really insisted we talk about these other things, and why?
Thanks, Carrie.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. I think that's very typical, that at the end of the day, and that's depending also on the culture of how disciplined is people with agendas. But in my opinion, and that's at least is my opinion, is this discipline on the agenda and having the flexibility and the ability to managing the agendas and extending when you need to be extended because it's needed, or just stopping the discussions and then leave it for a separated commission, a separated group. This is an art, and this ability that the chairman need to lead. So that's why we said, okay, again, you can have it the best board members, but if you don't have a good leader, and not everyone is the right leader for a board. And in most cases, and we have a fantastic examples where it look like that the leader of the board need to be the largest shareholder of the company, because it's the largest shareholder is the chairman of the board. In some other culture, that's very typical here in the Mediterranean culture in Europe, is that you have CEOs and chairman of the board in the same person. So executive and non-executive president in the same person. So I don't consider that the best practices on governance. I think everyone needs to play their own role, and everyone needs to be the best on they need to deliver the best of their self. So in some cases, the largest shareholder is the best person to perform the board chairman role. But in some other cases, the person is fully willing to delegate it or to appoint it another person as a chairman of the board, because literally that shareholder probably can contribute it much more as a board member than as a chairman of the board, because the chairman of the board is a quite special role for that. So that's you have all the combinations, but my suggestion here is that there is not a perfect solution. Every solution depends on the situation, the objective, and the group of people that you have there.
Fabulous. Rafael, muchas gracias. Carrie, thanks for the question. Thanks, Pavel. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, James. Thanks, everybody, for getting involved. Rafael, that was wonderful. I hope to see you in Madrid soon. If you're in London, let me know. Estás invitado a mi casa.
Thank you.
Y nos vemos pronto. Un abrazo muy fuerte. Thanks, everybody. We'll catch up
Gracias,
soon.
gracias, Rafa.
Gracias.
Thank you very much.
Ciao,
Thank you
ciao.
very
Thanks
much.
again.
Any comments or anything, then you can reach me.
We'll build a bridge, Rafa, for sure.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.